so excited to have you. I will quick introduce myself. My name is Molly Busby. I'm the owner of Yoga Hive, Montana and Wisconsin, and I'm just so excited. This is one of my favorite pastimes. I've made a gajillion malas in my lifetime, and I really, really enjoy the practice of Japa Mantra, which we'll talk a little bit about before we start. So I'm so happy you all are here. Welcome. And Blaine, if you want to introduce yourself, go for it.
Sure. Hi, I'm Blaine, and I own Yoga Hive Colorado, and I'm here in the studio so you can see like the ceiling. I'm like on the stage because this is where the light is best because I need like good lighting and my glasses to do these projects. And yeah, I'm happy you're here. And I'll just like add one little thing. I started making malas before Molly and I went to India to study yoga. And you know how Americans are, the way we just kind of like take things and, we just maybe take them out of context or own them or however, whatever words you want to use. So I was kind of like that with malas, like, is this really right? The way, especially the way that I learned how to do them with the intention and the knots and the kind of the ritual around it. And then I was like, am I going to go to India and find out this has nothing to do with yoga? I was really kind of curious about that. And then Molly and I went to India, to Rishikesh, the birthplace of yoga, and they use the malas. I mean, everybody, it is in the daily life. The way that we're going to teach you is the way that we kind of did it before. We didn't do the japa as much, I don't think. I think we learned way more about japa in India, but the nodding and the intention and all that actually is how they do it in India. So I just want to say that because when I went to India, it was one of those things I had my radar up on. Like, have we just really Americanized something? And this is how they do it.
So if you have the packet either on your computer or maybe you printed it off, go ahead and pull it up. This way that we're teaching you about how to make a mala, how to use your mala, is what we learned when we went to India. We were super fortunate in 2018 to find a whole month where we could both fly across the world and go to one of the most magical places we've ever been, at the foothills of the Himalayas, and study yoga. And so we learned so much stuff. We had been, like Blaine said, making malas prior to that, but really learned the depth of just possibilities of how to use this tool in your life. So a mala, as some of you may or may not know, I know this is a review for some of us. So it's a string of beads used to focus our awareness and concentration. It truly is used for spiritual practices. Today, I wrote an email out about the word spirituality because sometimes, I don't know, you feel like you kind of shy away from saying the word spiritual because, like, maybe people won't want to come to your yoga classes. But really, that's what this is all about. For some folks, just getting these stones, whatever, I know a lot of you handpicked your stones from what we had available. It can be a connection with the meaning of the stones. The stones themselves are really powerful. And for some folks, it's that connection to the meditation, to the japa practice, which will teach you how to do. So it's a spiritual tool that we use during spiritual practices. And spiritual means something different to every single one of us, which is the most beautiful thing. So we have, and I actually don't have my finished mala right here. I have one on my altar. So I have this mala that I made, and all malas have 108 beads. And there's a 109th bead. I've got this little Buddha head right here. That is called the guru bead. So I know this gets confusing sometimes, but it's 108 beads total. And then the guru bead is actually just a signifier because when you use the mala to rotate it, the guru bead stops you and shows you like, oh, hey, you've made it all the way around. So that's the purpose of it, the guru, the teacher. So 108 is a really powerful number, and it's sacred number, multiples of 9. There's tons of references to 9, 108, 54, 27, all these things within Vedic astrology, within our commonplace in there's like 9 months in the womb. There's the Holy Trinity in a lot of different traditions. 3 is a really powerful number. There's all these different associations. And so 108 is this magical number, and that's how many beads a mala has, typically. And that's how many ours are going to have tonight. So, and as a caveat, if some of you did open your bag and count your beads, you may have exactly 108 plus your guru bead, but you might have a few extras. So if we forget to tell you that, don't feel like you're going to string all of your beads. You might have been given a couple extras just in case they happen to roll away. So japa, the word, means rotate. This is a Sanskrit word. And the reason it means rotate is because this is how we use a mala. And we're going to give you some example mantras that you can use. And even if you've never done this before, this is one of my favorite ways to meditate, especially if I don't want to just sit and repeat a mantra in my head, if I need something in my hands, and if I feel like I need to be put to a task rather than my mind left to its own devices, and especially when I'm on the go. And so, like our teacher Anand says, japa meditation is really meant for infusing the gaps of your life with meditation. It's not necessarily like you sit down and you do a japa, which you can. It's more effective, I feel like, in my own life when I fill the gaps, like when I'm driving. If you're in traffic, say you're sitting in traffic, some of you live in bigger cities. I don't, but I've been in those days of traffic. You're just sitting there rather than, listen to podcast after podcast or music or ads on the radio. You're sitting there with your mala in one hand and you're just using your fingers to hold the first bead and you say a mantra in your mind. Second bead, say the mantra again. Third bead, mantra again. Fourth bead, fifth bead, sixth bead. And you just keep going until you make it all the way around. And so also this, the idea is kind of like you're saying it in your head. You don't necessarily have to say the mantra out loud. So the cool part is this is like meditating with your eyes open and no one needs to know you're even doing it. Because we all know, well, and if you don't know, meditation is essentially training us for how to be more calm in our daily life. So that's a little bit about how we use it, and we'll talk a little bit about mantra in a moment. Blaine, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, we have this like running dialogue in our mind. We have this programming and we have the same thoughts over and over and over. They're hard to break. A lot of them don't serve us. And so that is like Molly said, we'll talk a little more about mantra, but that's the beauty of this tool is like we're thinking at a vibration, right? And sometimes we have self-sabotaging thoughts, we have unconscious thoughts, we have negative thoughts, ever repeating over and over and over. And so using the mala to help us with the mantra it unprograms that. You can start to have more positive, different, higher vibration dialogue running through your head than the ever repeating same that we just all have over and over and over.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful. And at first, sometimes when you start with a mantra or with a japa practice, like anything, right? I think with some of these really simple things, we think, oh, I'm just gonna nail this right off the bat. Sometimes it's hard to like. Sometimes I get caught up in like, did I say the mantra on that bead? Did I count a bead? Have I even been rotating my hand? And then you get distracted, and you're like, I can't even make it around a full mala. These are all natural ways of progressing. But like Blaine said, and like we always tell our students and you, this is just like training for anything. You train for a marathon. Well, some people train for marathons, not me, Blaine does. But you train your body to be able to do something. And in meditation and in japa, we're just training our mind to be able to do something, to be able to unattach, to be able to unidentify with the thoughts. So the idea isn't that everybody is going to be super good or not good at japa meditation right away. The fact is, give it a try. And if it's a technique that resonates with you, great. And in any event, you're going to have this really beautiful artifact or tool or technology that you can utilize and you can wear. So we've given you on this first page of your packet, I'm just pulling it up on my end here. Oh, go ahead, Blaine. I did, and I admitted, I think Corey is here. Hello. Our waiting room is empty. Oh, never mind. Someone just came in. No problem. Welcome to those just joining in. We're just in Packet on the first page. And we will, and I want to put it out there too as we go through this, we love questions. So don't ever feel like you have a dumb question, because no question is a dumb question. And if you have it, chances are somebody else has the same question. So you can either wait until we ask for questions, or if you just want to pop a question into the chat box, that way we can get to it as we flow through the material. So we would love to hear any questions or contributions you all have. We try to create as much community as we can with a group this size on Zoom. Just doing our best here. So the last thing that first page in your packet just says is that, yes, we would view this possibly as jewelry. And Blaine and I both wear them. We wear them around our necks. I often will wrap it. Usually for me, I can wrap it 5 times around my wrist, and I just wear it throughout my day. It's great to carry with me. I might toss it in my backpack. But truly, the view of malas, at least from our tradition, Kriya Yoga, the Vedantic philosophy in the Himalayas of northern India, is that these are tools. Just like you have a cell phone that connects you to friends and family and helps you check your email maybe and do all sorts of stuff, this is also a tool. And I think for me, one of the biggest game changers in yoga overall is starting to view yoga and these technologies like mantra and mala making and japa as technologies, as things that I wouldn't go a day without, because they help me become a brighter version of myself. Just like having an efficient car or having an efficient, I don't know, filing system. All these things are really important if we want to get somewhere faster. And in order to get somewhere faster in life, we have to train ourselves to be more efficient. So that's what we're doing. And these beautiful things are what we're making tonight. And for those of you who just hopped in, as a reminder, don't open your bag of beads yet. We are we are not ready to open them yet. And if you hear this crying in the background, I have a puppy and she's just learning to use her voice. So it's not a weird noise in the background. So we're not opening our bags yet. We want to make sure we keep everything in there. We'll go through our packet first, and then we'll get to those after this. So second page. What is mantra? So mantra is a Sanskrit word in yoga. And for those of you, I know some of you are more familiar with Sanskrit and yoga than others of you, which is totally fine. Sanskrit is like the language of yoga. It's a very, very old, ancient language. And the reason it's here and that we use it today is to communicate yoga. And it's been that way since, I like to say since the beginning of time, but let's just say thousands and thousands of years. And so Sanskrit is a very, it's got a lot of resonance with nature. The vibrations of the sounds of Sanskrit words are incredibly powerful. They're very ancient and they're tuned in with nature. So you compare this to, say, a language like English, which I'm speaking now. English is not a language that has a masculine and a feminine form, right? You might think about some other romantic languages that have masculine and feminine forms. English, not so much. To put it bluntly, our teacher Anand says that English is a dead language. At first, when I heard that, I was like, it's not dead. But if you look at it in terms of nature, it doesn't have any masculine or feminine. So it can be viewed that way. So we use Sanskrit when we chant the mantras that we're going to use in tonight's class in japa meditation. And so mantra, the word, man means mind and heart, and tra means release, expansion, and liberation. So when we talk about mantra, we talk about the expansion of the heart. And when you think about vibration, and Blaine and I have both studied vibration, Blaine has studied it extensively through energy medicine yoga. Maybe she can talk about this just briefly, but the vibration is an incredibly powerful thing. We can, just in the same way where, say you're at work and somebody walks into the office and you know they are having a bad day and they have not said a word, but you can just feel it coming, like vibrating off them, like, don't talk to me, I'm having a bad day. That's how powerful vibration is. We don't need words. Sometimes we don't need sound. We can just feel. And so, Blaine, I don't know if you want to add any more now that you just took a bite. I don't know if you want to add any more about vibration, but just super powerful tool. Yes. Yeah. So, uh, we've included some text that you can read here. The mantras that we use in the tradition, lineage is a big piece of what we do here at Yoga Hive, and we talk a lot about northern India in the Himalayas because different aspects and traditions of yoga come from all over the place. And so, this specific tradition that we work with, the mantras that we use are from an ancient text called the Upanishads, and this is within the tantric tradition, which all of these are words where if you're like curious about them, there's lots of other courses we host where we go a little bit deeper into that. But we don't use these mantras because they're in Sanskrit and they're seed sounds, sounds of nature. We don't use them for conversation necessarily. They're used just like a mala as a tool, as a technology that can help get us from A to B faster. And again, so you're chanting the mantra, you're using your mala, powerful stones, working with literally a piece of nature in your hand. And then you're chanting a mantra with a specific vibration. So some mantras are a little bit more neutral, like unity, promoting unity consciousness, helping us feel one with, our family or one with Mother Earth. Other mantras, I mean, there are mantras out there that you can use to help send out healing vibrations. If somebody in your life is sick, you can chant the Medicine Buddha mantra to help send them those healthy, healing vibrations. If you look on the next page of the packet, we've included some of the common mantras in our tradition. Om. You've probably all heard the mantra Om. A lot of yoga classes start and end with Om. That's the universal sound, the primordial sound. It's an incredibly powerful sound. So that's a really basic one. But other ones, other more nuances like Soham. This is like tapping into that universal energy, this idea that we're all made from the same fabric, from the same elements. And ultimately, even though our individual preferences and personalities and locations and circumstances are different, ultimately, at our fundamental level, we are all one. Like, Om. It's like the ultimate kumbaya Sanskrit chant. So there's that one. Om Namah Shivaya. This is working with Shiva and the energy of the god Shiva. So in our tradition, and some of these are, you can say a Hindu mantra, but when we use these, we're not using them from a dogmatic approach. We're really using these in the way that they were intended in the Upanishads, which is to create a certain vibration within our heart and within our being. So when we use a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya, so we are invoking the essence of what Shiva represents. And if you know anything about Shiva, he was the first yogi, the first yoga teacher, and he's very fierce and ferocious. He's the god of destruction, which sounds really intense, and he is very intense, but the energy is like, sometimes there are just times in your life when you need a swift kick in the you know what to like get going or start a project or like get it together. That would be a great time to chant, to do a japa mantra for Shiva. There's some others on here that we've included for you. Look through the meanings, maybe find one that you might want to try. And yeah, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about japa practice in a moment. But this Sanskrit mantras, they give us a very deep experience. And there's scientific research to back up the fact that when we chant in a non-native language, meaning if your first language is English, then Sanskrit is definitely a non-native language. When we chant in a non-native language, it improves brain health, it improves memory, and perhaps the most profound, I would say, reason to chant a Sanskrit mantra is that you likely have no attachment to these sounds. So, as opposed to, say, an English mantra like I am light or light and love or whatever you want to say, these affirmations we have in English, When you say light and love or love and light, to me, I have this image of like a t-shirt that I've seen that written on. So for me, if I were to chant that love and light in my head, I would either picture like the signature of someone's email, or I'd be picturing t-shirts, and then my mind could go off on a tangent here and a tangent there, because our mind works with all sorts of associations. But when we use a non-native language, something that we're not speaking all the time, we don't have these trains of thought. We don't have this existing experience with these sounds. It's like somebody who goes their whole life not knowing that snow exists, and then all of a sudden seeing snow falling from the sky and having no context on like what the heck this stuff is. In the same way, when we start using Sanskrit, it gives our mind the chance to start from a very still place. So versus an English affirmation or something like, I am love, I am light. There's lots of ways that our mind can bounce around. We know the word light. We know the word love. We have seen the bumper stickers and the t-shirts. Maybe a teacher said that to us one time. Maybe we just got an email that said that. Lots of bouncing around. But ultimately, when we meditate, we want the mind to come to stillness. Ideally, right? Doesn't work like that in practice, not every day, but that's what we're working toward. And so a Sanskrit mantra like Soham, I guarantee none of us in this room are probably walking around, unless you do japa already and chant a lot of mantra, but you're probably not walking around saying Soham, chanting Soham in your mind. And so the references just aren't there for your mind to start bouncing around as it does. So it's a really powerful way. And again, you improve your memory, your retention. It's kind of like allowing your mind to just empty, because we always innocently go back to the mantra. Even if our brain starts to go off on a tangent, and sometimes it feels like you're chanting your japa mantra and then your mind's having a separate conversation, and then all of a sudden you realize it's happening. All we do, innocently come back to the mantra. No judgment. The mind does what it does. Thinking is a good thing. It's important that we can think, but it's important to recognize when that's happening and come back to your mantra. So there's a lot of different specific energy signatures. We've included some material in the packet for you about that. But when we typically take on some sort of mantra practice, we recite it in certain rounds. So if you were in a yoga class, you might have a teacher that says, we're going to do 9 rounds of this mantra, or 27 rounds, or 12 rounds. But when we do japa practice, we do 108 rounds of a particular mantra. That is what we call one mala, right? Because there's 108 beads on the mala. So chanting one mala worth of a mantra is 108 times. So when we take on a japa practice, and I'm going to just skip to the last page because that's where we're at already. So when we skip to the last page and we talk about japa and taking on a practice, as opposed to saying, oh, I just need to refocus, I'm just going to do one mala, right? I'm going to count 100, I'm going to use my mala so I don't have to count to 108, and I'm going to say a mantra 108 times. But if we want to take that one step further, and we really want to create a specific vibration within our heart and a specific signature with the mantra that we choose, we can take on a practice, or what we call a sadhana. This is a commitment. Sometimes you do it with other people. Sometimes you do it by yourself. Sometimes a teacher. If you're looking for spiritual guidance from a teacher and they say, you know what, I've had my teacher say, you need to do 29,000 rounds of this mantra. And it sounds, well, to me, I was like, 29,000, kind of like, whoa, this is going to take me a lifetime. But if you start breaking it down, 29,000 rounds, you divide that by 108, that's how many malas you do. And then you break that down, say, over the course of 21 days or 40 days. Then it starts to become a bit more manageable. And say you do 5 rounds on your mala a day. That's 108 times 5, 550 roughly. I'm sometimes okay with math. 550 times per day, and then over the course of a month. And then all of a sudden you have many thousands of rounds. And the whole idea, as I've touched on, but I'm really going to hone in on this, is that you've created an energy, or you've taken on the energy of this mantra. And instead of allowing your mind for that time, maybe it takes you, I don't know, say it takes you 5 minutes to do a mala, or say it takes you 1 minute. Let's make this easier. 1 minute for 108 rounds. So for 5 rounds on your mala, it takes you only 5 minutes a day. That 5 minutes, maybe you used to spend worrying. Maybe you used to spend stressing about your emails, or feeling like you're not getting enough done, or feeling guilty, or any of these very human emotions and situations that we put ourselves in. And it's just, we're helping our mind train to be more efficient, so that for that 5 minutes a day, and you can start at 5 minutes and move up from there, 5 minutes a day, your mind isn't going off in 25 directions. Your mind is focused on one thing. It would be the same as if, say, you sat on the couch all day long every day. I'm not sure if anybody here partakes in this, but if you were the ultimate couch potato and that's all you did every day, and you decided, I'm going to take on walking. I'm going to walk for 5 minutes a day. And so you started with 5 minutes a day. And I would guess that if you're used to sitting on the couch all day and you start walking 5 minutes, and maybe you up it to 10 minutes a day, imagine the progress that you're going to see in your physical capability. In the same way, when we take on a japa practice, we see that mental capacity. We see our mind start to open up, and we create space. And we don't necessarily have to fill that space with more on our to-do list or more projects. Sometimes it's really nice just to create space. And that is one of the most powerful ways that we can use our malas to create space in our mind, especially if you're someone that's a very tactile person. For some of us, it's not comfortable to just sit in meditation and not have something to hold or something to hear. And that's okay. It's very normal. And so even sitting quietly, your eyes closed in a darker room, set the mood, just having this in your hand and running your fingers over it as you chant mantra. It can be, and for many students that we've worked with in the past years of our experience, it's been a really powerful experience, and it just allows your mind to be free. So that is what japa is. Blaine, is there anything that you would add to this?
No, thanks, Molly. I think you did a great job. I mean, the one thing I would add is if you're not sure about how to pronounce any of these, we can maybe at the end, if you're super interested, Molly and I can just run through how to say them, and then it's in the recording, or you can reach out to Molly and I independently and we can help you with pronunciation. You can also Google these, and these are super common. And secondly, if you're really not embracing the Sanskrit, I mean, we know there's rosaries. This is not the only way or the only tradition upon which something like this is used. I do it in English sometimes too. I'll do be still, find God. So it's not like you have to use Sanskrit. This is the other thing. If there's English things that you would like to repeat, then do it in English.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And sometimes we even try English or we try Sanskrit, and we can decide for ourselves, you know what, I prefer the other. And so try things out, see what works. It doesn't always feel like it jives on the first time. And even post workshop, if you run into a situation where you're not sure, you're like, I can't quite find a mantra for this, or I'm not sure, like Blaine said, how to pronounce this, or what would you do? Never hesitate to just shoot us a quick email. We're happy and willing to help you, because this is one of our favorite things for our own life and that we actually use. And so to help somebody else do that is wonderful. And we'd love to do that.